I'm the scout that made it back to give the report. Ma, who was that? And she said, that's Jesus. And I said, Ma, you sure? I mean, that's Jesus? If you're not able to repeat the information that you're gathering, then you are the robot. So I poured a whole bunch of them together and made me a nice little double shot at 12 years old. Before I left here, I made sure I left something of value.
Proper planning, keep me prepped to perform an opinion. I'm creating a legacy on paper for page on my children.
Peace and blessings. You are tuned in to the Rooted In podcast presented by In the Clouds Media. On this show, we're looking at the roots, the soil that these guests had grew out of, just taking it back to where they come from so we can know about the atmosphere that helped mold them into the person that they are. I am LJ Hippie, the sole proprietor of OPM Vision, the head of the Curtel family, and the head of security for this building here known as Sacramento's Black Wall Street, aka Florence Square. We are sitting down with the youth advocate, a community leader. You know, this is somebody who's turned his past battles into the blueprint for saving the next generation. He's navigated his deep personal stories and doing the real work. You know, he's not just talking about it, he's walking about it. He's been alongside Hooked on Fishing, Not on Violence as a nonprofit. You know, he's been putting in the work and getting the results. We have none other than Marvell Wilson Jr. Pleasure, man.
Right
Junior.
Man, thank you.
So before we get into it, first and foremost, I just want to say it's an honor to be able to get your story out and just get to know you on another level, because for most people that don't know, we meet on a weekly basis. Right. You know, and this is the real me, this is the real us, and I'm looking forward to just getting to know you on a different aspect. So I'd like to know, you know, how do we get here? So first and foremost, are you born here in Sacramento, or where were your roots in originally?
Well, actually, I was born in Cleveland, Ohio.
There we go.
In 1953. And I will share that in 1953, in Cleveland specifically, well, I say generally, but there was the aura and the atmosphere of segregation that made it so that we had all black communities. Right. And we had 2-parent families, and we had all black businesses.
Hey.
So I grew up in that realm, although where I was born, there was not middle class. It was like just a little bit below middle class living style, but we didn't know the difference. You know, we just knew that we were growing up around people that looked like us, and in commerce and in exchange with people like us, socializing and growing as a community, right? So I say that to say that what I'm observing now in comparison is far flung from that grooming process, right? And now, as a result, when I come to do what I do, which is to help our young people, and then to help our brotherhood get a better perspective on what our value was and what it truly is from the inside out. I always do that comparison because I was lucky to be able to grow up in an atmosphere where businesses were owned, 2-parent families, and we had a hospital in our neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah. So these type of experiences helped me to clearly understand how aloof and how far from what we would do well to practice as a group of people. And now all I do is try to stimulate that consciousness in every way I can, is that we have the strength and the power and the ability to actually create and stimulate each other toward a higher level of thinking and being if we work together.
That's facts. I'm curious as to where this came about, because you already have the leadership potential, you know, and the credibility as well. Were you an only child, or do you have multiple siblings? Or
no, I'm the eldest of 7.
Eldest of 7.
I had one brother who's under me, and he's deceased. And his
Rest in
sister,
peace.
my sister, of course, his sister. His name was Daryl, her name was Cheryl. They were like a year and so apart. So we're kind of like stair step, right?
Okay.
By the time my mother was 33, she had 7 kids.
Okay.
So
Shout out to Mom.
me being the elder, and my father being not involved. He was the type of individual that he goes to work, and that's it. He goes to work, and he'll dole out something for my mom to do what just needed to keep up the household. And then he was a singer,
Okay.
a very popular singer. Coming out of Meridian, Mississippi, he sang with a group called the Canaanites.
Canaanites.
And they made albums and were very popular as a group. And he was the lead singer, and so he kept his appearance always stellar. You know, he wore Sansa. They call them Sansa belt back then. Sansa belt breeches. They were breeches that had a elastic waist. So when you put them on, they adjust to your to your waist, right?
That's different.
They're made out of silk or made out of virgin wool, or some very high yield quality materials. And he wore Pendleton shirts and alligator shoes, right? But he fell short in a lot of areas as far as bringing the household to fold. As a matter of fact, we didn't even have a car as a family until he got a guy. He co-signed for a guy to get a car, and the guy kept the car in the daytime, and he got it periodically, even though his name was on the car. Right? This is the type of individual my father was. However, I don't hold it against him, because back in those times when you're being denied your righteousness or being denied your ability to stand up and perform, or you have a fear of what might happen if you do, a lot of different decisions get made. And sometimes there are decisions to do as little as possible and make yourself as small as possible. Do what you only necessarily have to do, which is go to work, bring the money home, and hope that that keeps the family together. So he was a nonverbal individual that was not involved in any of my grooming or any of my siblings' grooming. Right. And it's unfortunate because as a result, I found myself like going into the atmosphere, being the elder's son,
right,
and being the male. I found myself going into the atmosphere, exploring to find out, what manhood was like, and how to develop relationships, and how to become independent from 5 sisters, because I had five sisters, right? And being a household with a mother who is standing in the gap for most of every other major decision, and grooming and etiquette and all that, because my mother had the power of nonverbal communication. That means she can look at you a certain way, and you knew that something you are doing or should be doing, right? Which was very good and very powerful. However, I found that I didn't gravitate toward that as being the way for me to learn about myself as a male. Mm-hmm. So I found myself going out into the atmosphere, going into exploring different things, and as a result, because of my vulnerability, a lot of things happened to me that kind of tainted me and kind of jaded me about interaction with other males, right? And so I've had a few partners, what I call partners, in my life, and each time something happened that I was accused of doing that I didn't do, right? Mm-hmm. And that caused the partnership to dissolve. So I've been pretty much that individual who has been wary of male connections, but mindful that it's important for me to have them.
That makes
And
sense, right?
that those two variables made it so that I'm very cagey and cautious about who I let in my personal circle, even though I want to trust everybody. Yet
Right.
I need some evidence and a demonstration in order to
Definitely.
make that decision. So it's been like that most of my life. And coming here to California was sort of an introduction to a certain kind of freedom that I didn't feel when I was in Cleveland, Ohio. Because see, let me share this. At 12 years old, I think I mentioned that my parents, matter of fact, my mother was in a singing group as well.
Oh, so you come from a musical background.
That's
for
right.
real.
And moreover, the reason why we went to Cleveland is because Cleveland was one of the first cities to have all black radio stations. One was called WJMO, and the other one was
shout
called
out.
WABQ.
WABQ. Okay,
And in
shout out.
Cleveland, back in the late 40s and early 50s, Cleveland was sort of like one of those places. It's not quite a mecca for entertainment, but it was. You have to go through Cleveland. So if you're a well-known artist and somebody asks you, "Have you played Cleveland?" and you said no,
Right.
then you're a
Right,
suspect. You know, it's like, well, you ain't played Cleveland. Well,
Right.
then how you gonna call yourself renowned if you
Right.
ain't played Cleveland? So a lot of people gravitated toward Cleveland, including my mother and my father, because they had these two radio stations. And as a result of that, they used to have parties at the house,
makes
right?
sense.
And in the parties, they have alcohol.
Definitely.
And so
right.
one day after the party, I woke up and went out into the living room, and there were glasses with corners in them, little corners of alcohol in them. And so I heard them out there having a nice time, laughing and talking and stuff. So I'm saying, this is a laughing. This is what they were laughing and talking with. So,
Right.
so I poured a whole bunch of them together and made me a nice little double shot at 12 years old. Drank it, got sick, threw up. But I found out then that I have that precondition, right, that was triggered by that alcohol that made it so that I'm going to drink again. But this time I'm going to make sure that I don't drink too much.
And get
And I'm
sick.
going to make sure that, I don't get too dizzy, drink too much.
Right.
But I'm going to do this again because the sensation triggered that precondition in me. And I recognize that I have it. Right. Or I didn't know what it was then, but I knew what I had was something that was compelling me to keep using this drug, because alcohol is a drug. C2H5OH-ethyl alcohol is a drug, but we socially accepted and is taxable and government and sanctioned by the government, so it didn't seem to be a harmful drug at the time. It just seemed like it was happy juice, or what they used to call back in the day spirits. They used to call alcohol
Spirits, absolutely right.
And that's what they are. They generate certain spirits.
That's so true.
And a lot of times, and I'm gonna tell you this about alcohol, because I did an in-depth study. I went to school for counseling, for drug counseling, and then I redirected my energy toward drug prevention, because I thought that would allow me to be able to get with our young people, give them a lot of information so they can make an informed decision. That's not to say that they won't decide to use this in a drug of any kind, but it is to say that they will have enough information to recognize that it's a conscious decision to take a risk.
Definitely.
And maybe they won't take the risk initially, or if they took the risk and it didn't work out, maybe they would redirect and make another decision, right?
Right.
So I decided to do it like that and go for the prevention. And what I found out was that because alcohol is so socially and readily accepted in our society, is because it's what they call an uninhibited drug.
Right.
right? It's an uninhibited drug, which means that once you ingest it, all the things that you may have thought you wanted to do but didn't seem to have the courage,
Right.
or the
Right.
things that you wanted to do but you just needed a little push, a little justification,
Right.
then you find yourself doing it, right? And so that's why I found that alcohol is one of those drugs that I do a lot of emphasis when I talk to our young people about, which drug has what effect, and that uninhibited or uninhibiting factor that alcohol has is one of those things that I found is one of our society's kind of one of our nemesis, right?
Facts.
To fight the urge to want to use it is a big challenge for us, especially since it's so widespread, socially accepted,
Right.
marketed all the time, and make it so that it's not a drug, but it is a drug.
Absolutely. That makes me think of a question. When dealing with the youth or just mentoring, what is one of the first things you do that can strip away the tension that can get them comfortable to even talking to you just about even things like that, drugs and alcohol? Like when dealing with the youth, what is one thing you do to break the ice with them first?
Well, what I like to do is, first of all, I attempt to get them a clear understanding of what it is that I'm here to do. Right. I ask them, why do you think I'm here?
Right.
And they'll say, oh, you want to help us make better decisions, and they'll give me those responses that are sensible, right? And then when I propose to them what it is that you're willing to do, right? And then we'll barter information about what it is, not only what I'm here to do, because what I'm here to do may appear to be because I'm being paid, which is not true. Right. I'm not being paid, so I clear that up. I don't get paid for this, But what I am here to do is to share with you information that may help you make a better decision, or information that might help you make a decision that is going to be a progressive and constructive decision for your life. That's a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I let them know there's a possibility. And another thing I do is I use words. You take a word, define the word. First of all, find out if they know what the word is. Like I might use a word like integrity. They might know what integrity is. And then when they share what it is, we'll delve into what the definition is, and then we'll discuss how that relates to our lifestyle. It's a particular distinction in these words, and a particular application in most of these words for us in the inner city. And that's not limited to any race. What it is, it's an experience. It's an environmental experience, right? And so a lot of times the relativity of the word kicks in for them, so that they'll know that this is something that I should pay attention to, right? And so this is kind of like one of the methodologies that I use to make them understand that I'm not really here to be your buddy.
Right, definitely.
I'm not here to be, I'm not trying to swooze you into liking me.
Right.
I just want you to understand that what I have to share is something that you have no idea about right now. Right. There's things I know that you don't know. The things I've done that you have yet to do. Right. And there's experiences that I've had that if I share them with you and share with you my conclusion about the better way to look at these circumstances, you might not have to go where I went to get what I have now.
That's real wisdom. I do want to unpack a couple of those experiences, but before we do, just touching on your roots, because you kind of gave a little insight to what your neighborhood was like. But at what point did you leave from Ohio to California?
Well, I've been I think I mentioned that I started drinking at 12, and that was the beginning of the
The
precondition.
catalyst, right?
And so I went from drinking to marijuana to sniffing glue.
Sniffing glue. Like school, like the academics glue, like the
No. It's
a drug
something
called
called. It was called airplane glue. It's got
glue, okay.
Tulian is the active ingredient that causes the
Tulian,
the
sniffing glue, okay.
Yeah, but it's an airplane glue, and we used to put it in a bag and massage the bag and then huff the bag, and it makes you have hallucinations, right?
Right. That's
Is it almost like the I know there was a time where like the spray paint, where they would put spray paint into a bag, and then the chemicals that came off of that was
Same principle. It's probably Tulian. Probably, there's some other toxins, but Tulian is the one outstanding one that causes these hallucinations. You want to know? You want to hear a hallucination?
sure. Yeah, let's do it.
So one time I was by myself. I had my bag. I had my glue. I went in a basement of a apartment building, right? And so I'm in the basement, and upstairs someone's playing Stevie Wonder's "You Met Your Match," right? I don't know if you ever heard it before, but
might
it's
have.
"You met your match, you met your." But let me see.
It's got the cadence.
If you don't have never heard it, I just want to give you. I'll refer you to it. You just check out Stevie Wonder's "You Met Your Match."
Gotcha.
So I'm huffing this bag, and then all of a sudden, the song got accompanied by the vents in the wall,
Okay.
and the ventilator, the vent, the major duct had vents in it, and the big mouth for the vent was singing the lead, and the little vents were doing the background, and I'm sitting in this
Script,
fantasy,
right.
watching this performance by these inanimate objects, right?
Right.
So I'm just giving you an idea
That's the
of
hallucination.
what this practice of attempting to get high, what the unfolding of it was. Then I started shooting heroin. I was 15.
Ooh, from starting at 12, drinking alcohol, then weed, sniffing glue, and then to heroin.
Then
by
to heroin.
15.
Then to heroin. And then the reason why heroin was introduced to me by this particular guy is because I was a thief in the neighborhood. All the stores in the neighborhood, I had been inside and came out with their stuff, their money and product and all that stuff.
Right.
And everybody knew it, but they couldn't catch me, right? And this guy knew what they call it. He said, "I know you got heart." They said his kid got heart. So he was a heroin addict. In order for him to be able to continue his ongoing usage on a daily basis, he had to get money every day. So he introduced me to the dropper with the point and the heroin and the sensation. And the next thing you know, we off and running on a daily basis, maintaining our heroin usage until I got locked up. But in the meantime, I've been getting locked up as a juvenile because I got locked up at 13 for what they call truancy and incorrigibility, right? Incorrigibility is you won't listen to authority, defiant toward authority. So you're incorrigible. You rule incorrigible, and if you've been truant, they'll send you to a juvenile facility. So they sent me to the juvenile facility, and I got out, and then I went back to using drugs, and then got caught up again. So the bottom line challenge for me, and what I had to overcome eventually was my attraction and addiction to
Right.
drug usage, right? But all through my young adult life and all through my teenage life, I've been in and out of these places, right? In and out of these places. So I think you asked me what happened to me that urged me to change my venue, or that happened to me that made me change my mind.
Right.
And that was that I got married in 1983, and we had my first child in 84 was coming, and I just didn't want to. And you can attest to this because I've watched you as a father. I've watched you and I've admired you.
Thank you.
As a representative of a fatherhood and representative of a man in the household.
Thank you.
And I just would not allow myself to be in the grips of this drug, knowing that I have a child coming. Right. So that was one of those revelations that came to me. And as a result of that, I practiced getting abstinent from drug usage.
Getting clean.
Yeah. But I wasn't clean. I was just abstinent.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You know, there is a distinction, and I'll share it with you. When you're practicing in recovery, practicing getting and staying clean, that means not just from drug usage. That means from being aware of all of those things that might trigger your addiction. You know, because I went from drug usage to gambling to sex to what else? So drug using, gambling, sex, obsessions. Just all kinds of strange obsessions, right? That were a result of me still having the precondition, but not using drugs,
right?
And using something else instead of drugs, right? So when you're practicing getting and staying clean, it's your cognizance of what those triggers are and making sure that you avoid getting caught up in any of them.
Definitely. Right.
So it's a fine line distinction, but there is a distinction.
Something I want, if I could just add something to that. I mean, I've kind of in that young adult life where I'm trying to overcome certain vices, certain things that I would, I guess, look towards in the past. And something I've really been hearing about is that these, drugs, sex, being with multiple partners, all that type of stuff isn't really necessarily the problem. It's the symptom of a problem. So either that problem is anxiety or depression or whatever it is, those are all just a form of symptoms of that. So,
I say. Well, I'm gonna tell you what analysis I've made about myself personally, and what I seem to observe about a lot of people is that the challenges that might urge one to go outside of themselves and using something that has more power over them than they may have over themselves, right? Because that's what drugs have a tendency to have more power in your decision making and your behavior than you may have had on your own accord, right? And one of the things that I've observed is that one of the main reasons that I made a decision to go outside of myself was because I was emotionally disturbed. And it started with being unaware of what my emotions were, how to address them, because I had no one. I didn't have a father that I can go talk to. Say, man, when you ever felt like this before, or what do you do when this happens? He was not a factor in that regard. So therefore, I explored the atmosphere outside to find out. And that was my first external effort to deal with my emotions. And as a result of that, I got kind of like worked over. And when I was a kid, I was a slight little dude, right? And I was very intelligent. And in the 50s, if you were an intelligent kid in the neighborhood that I was, you were like attacked, right? And I was light skinned too. See, see, I was a light skinned little dude that had a lot of brains, a lot of intellect. So I was a target, and I was slight too. If you saw pictures of me when I was like 7, 8, 10, maybe 8, 9 years old, I was a skinny little dude, and I was getting chased home every day. And I told my mother, and my mother told me this. She said, Marvell, she said, I can't go out there fighting them kids for you, because if I fight them kids, I'm gonna have to fight their parents. Right. She said, so you're gonna have to start fighting back. Then I found out that I could fight, right?
So, right.
I found out, and so now it's like everybody looking for me to entertain them with my fighting ability now, right? They trick somebody to pick a fight with me, and then they'll watch me get out on somebody that's bigger than me, because at that time it got to the point where if you mess with me, I don't care how big you are. Mm-hmm. You know, if you mess with me, we're going to fight. And if you don't know what you're doing, I'm going to win.
Right.
Right? And so these kind of little revelations that occurred when I was young helped me get into maybe a mindset of a little more confidence, but it was not in confidence in myself. It was in confidence in my ability to cause pain to somebody else, or be able to demand respect by force, right? But it didn't give me any awareness. It helped me with my self-awareness, right? So I was still emotionally detached and emotionally unstable. And so it led to my spiritual imbalance, right? Because when I found out that I was emotionally detached, then it was difficult for me to pour into anything spiritual. Because my church was at the end of the street where I lived at, right? When I was 8 years old, and we used to go to church every day because my dad was a singer, so he was singing in the church, and my mom was singing in the church, and they would take me to the church. The only thing about it was that the way that I was acute to certain things is when we went in there, they had a picture of this blonde-haired, blue-eyed, supposedly deity, right? And I was looking at him like, Mom, who is that?
Right.
And she said, that's Jesus. And I said, Mom, you sure? I mean, that's Jesus? Because now I'm understanding why it is that my mama was so enamored by white people and so stimulated to be a certain way. We could be in the house playing, and we knock something over. Boy, get your ass over there. Get over there. But the phone will ring. Hello.
Right.
She take on this different persona, right? So I'm looking at her and I'm saying, who is she talking to? Right. Probably a bill collector or somebody like that, right? Mm-hmm. She didn't have that many girlfriends with phones because everybody didn't have a phone back then, right? So I'm seeing these distinctions, and I'm not subscribing to them at a young age. So that kind of put me on the external, attempting to practice spirituality, because I'm not really understanding that this structure doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Is that we're black people, we're going to this church, and then every time I see a white person, I'm supposed to associate the picture I see with the white person, right? And it didn't make sense to me because they're just other people, right? But then I see how again our societal norm was to be a little bit more reserved, or a little bit more, let's say, respondent to white people when they came into our neighborhood, right? Because most of the police were white, right? And when they came in the neighborhood, we all kind of scattered, right? So we're looking at two distinct different methods of addressing our being as black people. We're looking at us attempting to live in a community where we're thriving and we're getting along and all that. But when it was interceded by a white person, then we go into this reserve or this shell, and it didn't make enough sense to me for me to continue to pour into a church setting. So I've always had this little thing about the church. And there's some other things about church that make it so that it's kind of difficult for me. I go in there now and I feel the spirit of congregation and I feel the spirit of God. However, for me to devote myself to the perpetuation of that's kind of a hard sell for me. So I was emotionally disturbed, and then I became spiritually out of tune. And then I think it led to mental illness, because I became so mentally ill that if you disrespected me to the point to where I felt I had no choice but to take your life. And I tried to kill 5 people. What I'm saying is that what I did to them while I was doing it, when I got through with them, I anticipated that they would be dead. But it's only grace of God to save them and me. But I see that chronology. I see how when I was emotionally out of tune, how I became spiritually out of touch, and then mentally ill. And that mental illness, I could see in some of our young people now, is that, the risk that they take for so little, and the practice of the behavior that they're demonstrating, right. It leaves no choice for me to say you were emotionally ill, spiritually out of touch, and mentally defective. And so your decisions that you make are insane. They're practicing, to me, what I knew what I was doing was insanity. Mm-hmm. And so what I point out to them is that this is insane. You are temporarily insane. When you make these decisions based upon your emotional state of mind, mm-hmm. you all go into a state of temporary insanity. Mm-hmm. And that temporary insanity could be permanent in its consequences.
That's heavy. Yep. Before we do dive into the growth and development further, just touching on your roots, because you kind of gave insight to the layout, but I just wanted to get a specific insight to like what the layout was separate from the church and the hospital you had. Like, were you coming up in houses, or was it more of like apartments? Was everything really close together, or what was like the typical layout of your neighborhood coming up? Because you had mentioned you had a hospital in your neighborhood, you had a church that was on the corner. Were you coming up in a household with all the brothers, with all the sisters and your brothers, or was it more of like apartments? Everything was close together. What was the atmosphere like, or just the landscape like during your upbringing, just when you were starting to go through the transformative years of your life,
Yeah. Well, we had a lot of children.
Right, I can imagine.
Right. However, we didn't live in a house. We lived in a house once.
Okay.
That's when the church was down the street from us. We lived in a house once, but we weren't able to sustain that. So we moved there to a tenement.
Tenement. Okay.
A tenement is it's high story. It may have five floors, right?
Okay.
And on each floor there's one bathroom.
Oh wow!
Right.
Shared okay.
That's a shared bathroom on each floor, right? And then tenements are really renowned for having those wrought iron steps,
right?
The steel steps that you go up, right? So we lived in tenements and apartments, and my mother got married to a younger man who was very ambitious and very, very generous.
Okay.
And they bought a house.
Bought a house. Okay.
They bought a house, and that was in a place they call East Cleveland.
East Cleveland.
East Cleveland. It was like a suburb of Cleveland.
Okay.
And so they bought the house. So then when they bought the house, that's when we started experiencing the freedom of movement and activity and lack of restrictions and all that. Because up until then, we lived. It was 6 of us living in a 2-bedroom apartment, and we had converted the front room, which was the dining room, into my sister's room. We had 4 girls in there. Me and my brother slept in the rear bedroom, and my mother had her own bedroom. And that's how we functioned. So that we were all because we were upstairs. Right. So we all very cautious about the noise we made and how, etiquettes we practiced. And we did a good job. We did a very good job. As a matter of fact, the landlord told her, when she told her she wanted to move, he said, Ms. Wilson, he said, if I had another place that was open for me right now, he said, I'd move you in a minute. He said, because I ain't never got a complaint about your kids making noise. I never got a complaint about your kids destroying my property. Every time I come over here, everybody is nice and gentle and cordial, and everything is quiet. So that's the type of environment that we had internally, right? But I want to share with you that part of what our experience was as a family was that we knew that there was the world, right? And then there was our world,
right?
Our group's world, right? That means as we go outside, we see people that look like us, and and we were fortunate because when we moved to because the second apartment that we moved to was on a street where it was only 2 apartment buildings. The rest of them were single homes, and they were 2-parent family homes, and they were well kept lawns, and they had we had the opportunity to raid cherry trees, apple trees, peach trees, grapevines. Everybody had the crops in their backyard, right? And we used to go raid them, and they didn't mind, So we had this environment where we got a chance to feel the freedom of community,
right? Definitely.
And most of not all of the stores and the gas stations and the restaurants and the shoe repair and the cleaners and all the places were Black owned, right? So I had the opportunity to experience that, and I'm grateful for that,
right?
Because when we moved to where we were, the house was, things started changing. Right? Things started changing. The sense of community wasn't there anymore. It wasn't as tight as it was when we were there. And so I started noticing there was a transition as we started excelling and started acquiring a little bit more things. We started forgetting about our origins, right? And we start, fanning our feathers out, right, and wanting to become more attuned in the atmosphere, right, where other ethnics were, because they had more, you had more, so we want to be like you, right? I'm gonna move out here where you are, right. And so we started seeing that develop, and it became a divisionary kind of behavior, and we started seeing that, man.
Right.
So.
I can definitely see that. Was there like an unwritten rule, or just was there like, just coming up in a home that you knew absolutely not to break, or just an unspoken rule for most of the family, or at least just even when you transitioned into the house, like was there ground rules or expectations that was part of the transition where like, okay, hey, this is now the rules, or has there always been an unwritten rule?
Well, one of the unwrittens or unspoken but well understood was that you did nothing to embarrass your family. You didn't do
powerful.
You didn't do something that would cast aspersion toward how the family was viewed,
right.
except for me.
Except for you.
Right, because I was the one that was committing crimes, One time, they arrested me in my driveway from an armed robbery that we had committed. And the police got the description of the car, and when we pulled up in the driveway, they were out with shotguns and everything in front of the house. And my mama and my sister and they were on the porch looking like, oh, what the heck's going on?
Right.
And they couldn't find the gun because we were in a Corvair. I don't know if you know, a Chevy Corvair. Well, the Chevy made a car that looked like the same in the front that it did in the back, called a Corvair.
A Corvair, okay.
And the engine was in the back.
Okay.
Right.
Kind of those new cars now, where like the supercars, they have the engine in the back and the trunk in the front.
The trunk in the front.
Right.
Right. So we had hit the gun in the engine. So when they looked for the gun, they couldn't find it. Right. But nonetheless, I brought this disgrace to my family on the street. Right. I was the only one. Everyone else practiced making sure that we always maintained our etiquette. Right, and always maintain certain poise.
Right.
Everybody dressed nice, looked nice, kept their grooming and all of that, because that's how we were taught. Right, we were taught to not cast any poor glances or poor interpretations of the Wilson family. Right. And that's one of the things that we maintain, because again, I say my mama was a very powerful non-verbal communicator.
Right, powerful.
And some things she didn't have to say to let it be known that you met her disfavor. Right. And meeting her disfavor was not comfortable. Not because she was a tyrant or because she was unfair. It was because she was such a giving, loving, giving person. As a mother, she maintained her motherhood even to date. She maintains her motherhood over everything.
Everything.
Right? And so we had to show the respect to her based upon her commitment to us.
That's heavy, man. Shout out to moms. Thinking about that, like normally you'd always have that one friend from the old days who took a completely different path. But it just kind of seems like how you said it, being the Wilson family, you were named after your dad, you were Junior, but you kind of, made some of those decisions. But just learning from that, or just thinking, are you still in touch with some of the people from your neighborhood? Like, are you still in touch?
Actually, when I go to Cleveland, there's some brothers that came out of the fire as I did, right? Okay. They're in recovery and maintaining their recovery, and staying. See, you have to. It's again. I say to me, it's a cognizance that you have to have. You can be abstinent from drug usage, right? Yet present in the addiction. Right.
Abstinence from drugs. Right.
You can be abstinent from drugs, but present in addiction, right? And if you're not able to distinguish, you're just as bad off not using drugs as you were using drugs, because your obsession and the behavior and the insanity that you might practice is comparable to that the risks you took and the devastation that you self-imposed when you were using drugs. Right. So I have a lot of guys who really have been maintaining their recovery. And when I go there, we get together. I have 2-3 guys that's pastors.
Oh, wow, that's powerful.
Right,
okay.
2 or 3 brothers that's pastors. I have one guy that's a doctor.
Shout out.
These guys. I have some guys that I went to school with, and then we grew up together. That are like, as a matter of fact, Charlie Wilson is my cousin.
What? Charlie Wilson?
Yeah, Charlie Wilson. Gap Man, right? Is my cousin. And he had his challenges with this struggle with drug usage as well. So as a rule, the guys that I have gravity to are those who had that experience and have come through and maintain themselves, and also are doing whatever they can do to help other people, right? Because I don't really deal with folk who tout having things, right? Okay, you got stuff. Okay, cool. Good for you, man. You got stuff. What you doing with it?
That absolutely right.
Are you helping somebody? Are you using what you have to enrich or to help improve someone else's state of mind or their lifestyle or their livelihood? If you're not doing that, then I ain't got nothing against you, but I ain't got nothing for you neither.
Right.
I had a quick question. So just kind of going back to, you were talking about how your father was never really there to answer those questions that you really maybe had about yourself or about just growing up as a young adult. Was there anyone that you, I guess, gravitated towards to kind of see as a figure, not even such a father figure, but just someone that you kind of look up to? You said you were going to boxing and stuff. So did you pick up someone that was giving you some advice, or was it maybe on the negative, where it was on the streets, someone that you look up to?
There's a mixture. There's some qualities in individuals that I admire. It's just that, and I don't know how this is gonna sound to you, but I've reckoned with the fact that when I was a kid, I was probably near genius, right? So with that in mind, it's a high bar for one individual to be a go-to. But there were several individuals who had these virtues or had these qualities, had some character and had some charisma that I would like to emulate, right? And so there were some people that had these qualities that I found myself attracted to and incorporating in my style and my viewpoint, my overview about things. And there were some people that I felt comfortable sharing intimacies with, right? But there was no one particular go-to, because I was really gun shy. I said this the other day in our men's group. That's why I'm wearing this right here.
Shout out to the circle.
To the circle. Because if it weren't for the circle, a lot of things would not be happening in my experience. And that is that I've become an officer, vice president of 2 organizations, a profit and a nonprofit. I founded an organization. I've worked in schools. I've lobbied for better education for our youth. I've worked with the Youth Healing Circle as a facilitator for maybe 15 months, right? Of ongoing interaction, working with our young people. And it's as a result of this gathering that I found that I had the ability to represent the real me, what I really feel is important, because I'm looking for a legacy now. I'm 72 years old. So I'm not looking for highlights, right? I'm not looking for financial gains. I'm not looking for being looked at as an icon or anything. I just want to be looked at as someone that before I left here, I made sure I left something of value to help young people, specifically our people generally, right? And that means black and brown and any other group of people who can be targeted easily just because they're not white.
Definitely. When you're speaking with the youth, for example, who may have their guard up, what's the specific moment, or how do you say that? You pretty much said how you break the ice, but I guess I can just ask in a general question for the youth that maybe don't have a sense of direction. What would be like one of the main seeds that you plant that can help them to navigate through life? Like what would be some wisdom That, of course, it's different per individual, but for overall, if you had a general message for the youth, what would be a seed or a jewel that you would drop that can help them to navigate through life?
Right. Well, a couple of adages that I use to get them, because see, I don't want them to think that they're making a decision that I want them to make.
Absolutely, right.
Right. Even though it might be true, I would like for them to make a wise decision,
Right,
but
right.
they don't have wisdom. So the information that I share with them, I attempt to do it in a way that they have the limited choices to not look at the information. And so that's one of the methods that I use. But a couple of adages that I share with them is, if you're doing something and somebody asks them why they doing it and they can't tell them, then maybe it's time to reconsider. And maybe it's time to just stop doing it until you figure it out.
Right.
Figure out why are you doing this?
Right.
You know, because what I oftentimes attempt to share some insight about is that our young people now don't want to acknowledge it, but they're followers.
Definitely,
They're
right.
followers, and I understand it because it's easy to get in line with something that everybody else is doing. So you don't have to make a decision already made. You just following the dots, right?
Right.
To set yourself aside and seek out your uniqueness and seek out the value of your uniqueness, your personal power. That's one of the things that I always put emphasis on when I talk to them. That's why when we do the wheel, I say, look,
Definitely.
share that with me. I'm going to stand on this side. I'm going to be on the other side of the room. And you call out to me who you are. Because the most important thing you could tell me right now is your name.
Right.
And if you don't have the wherewithal or the courage to make me know your name, then there's nothing else I can think of that I'm willing to listen to coming from you.
Fair
So
enough.
if I'm not listening to you, I would dare to say it might be a good idea for you to listen to me.
Fair, right.
Because who are you listening to?
That part, right. Who's your leader?
That's
Who are
right.
you
Who's
leading?
leading you? Right.
Right.
So a lot of times I can relate with empathy to some of the shortcomings of our young people. But most of the time, I just address them because they're being lazy.
There's that going on for
They're
sure.
being just
right.
flat out lazy. They don't want to. They have no willingness to improve their insight.
Right.
And so those are the ones that's like, okay, but by the time I get through shaking this down, you're gonna be like, damn, man, I wish I had to come up. They don't come back because it's damn, man, I don't want to keep going around this dude, man. He keep on making me think. I don't even want to think, man. You know what I'm saying? I want to feel. Make me feel. I'm cool, but don't make me think. And you make me think too much.
Right. It's
Right.
pressure at that point.
Yeah, and it seems to be a pressure to them. It's like, oh man. Then you ask them what you just said, and they're like, oh, did he say something about us? Oh no,
Right.
really, man,
Not really dialed in.
really.
Right.
But I also put a lot of emphasis on the influence of technology.
right.
And not only do I put emphasis on it, but I also frame it as being a design mechanism
A tool.
to minimize your ability to critically think and to retain information. Because if you feel like every time you need to know something, all you got to do is this, then you don't have any reason to retain information, right?
Right.
And so when I ask you 5 minutes from when I just said something, what I just said, and you tell me you don't remember, or wasn't it something about, when it's like that,
Right.
then I'm pointing to your practice with this technology. And so then we start looking at technology and whittling it down to what's sensible for the technology to do. It's not so okay for entertainment, but it's really for information,
Right.
for you to gather and retain so that you can repeat. If you're not able to repeat the information that you're gathering, then you are the robot,
Facts. Right.
right? And the robot is controlling you.
Right. You either in control or out of control. I've had somebody tell me like I have a control problem, and it made me think like, you know, would I rather be in control or out of control? But as far as, you know, our words, ways, and actions. So when you do say that too, there is a lot of that. There's a lot of following, more the robotic syndrome type of going on. And it seems like for youth's sake, so I'm saying that because I still identify as a member of the youth, but us as a youth has seemed to lost control, separate from not having knowledge of self, but, you know, have like lost control of just finding a purpose, staying in alignment with our assignment. And, you know, that's something that made me think about from seeing you pour into the youth, because you've been pushing the envelope for Sacramento, you know, and that's kind of what that's what's leading into this other question as far as oh yeah, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
So I think we're still kind of confused. So at what age did you move from Cleveland to Sacramento, to, I guess, California? Did you come straight to Sacramento, or were you kind of going around a little bit of California?
No, I came straight to Sacramento from a place it's another city. It's called Columbus, Ohio. And it's a suburb of Columbus called Dublin, Ohio. It's where a lot of major headquarters of these major corporations are. It's a very kind of like, you know, toity kind of.
Is it more like like West Sacramento a little bit? Is it like that way, like the factories, I guess, or the...
Yeah, it's okay. When you say West, it's not quite as remote. When you start going West Sacramento out there, where they got the big corporations like Amazon used to be and all that. It's not quite that, but there's residency. The residents that live in the area, for the most part, usually work for those corporations, and they're pretty highly paid, right? And so it's one of those kind of hookups. But I just came from there to here because the woman that was with me at the time was from here. And she came to visit her niece in February. And so in February, where I was, you shoveling snow. Yeah, you shoveling snow, right? And like I say, it's kind of sprawling, right? So it's a lot. If you got a condo here and a bevy of condos here, then it's a lot of area. So that means that the snow accumulates and there's drifts and there's nothing to block it, so it piles up and you have to shovel it. So she called me up and asked me what I was doing. February 12th. Said, what you? Yeah, it was February 12th, 2008.
Kind of somewhat recent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I came here in 2009.
Okay, 2009.
Right. But she called me up February 12th, 2008. It was like, what you doing? I said, I'm shoveling snow. What you doing? She said, I'm walking around in my flip-flops. It's 72 degrees. I said, what? 72 degrees in February? I got to see that. Never known that. I mean, I kind of knew that it happened, but to have a personal experience like that, I'm looking forward to it. So we had the opportunity to rent a home on the internet. We rented the home from the internet and rented a moving van, packed all our stuff, and drove to California from Cleveland, Ohio, right, to take this new abode on Costgrove Avenue, right? It's right off of what is that, 21st?
24th coming down over here? Well, past the airport and...
No. It's okay. If you go south on 21st Street, you'll be going around like this, or and then Costco comes just before you get to Meadowview.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about. 21st. Oh, I'm confused. That's over there more towards Franklin.
No. 21st Street runs right off of Florin. Yeah.
Coming towards Meadowview.
Yeah, going toward Meadowview. Yeah, so we rented that house from there, and that was in 2009, right? And so my experience was to go to school. I went to school for counseling, drug counseling. Then I changed my direction and started doing drug prevention, right? Then I hooked up with an organization called the International Faith-Based Coalition, whose design it was to acknowledge the fact that drug usage has no particular religion. Every religion has drug usage in it, right? Either parishioners or pastors or loved ones and relatives. Drugs have no religious preference, right? So I was working with them, and I worked my way to become the vice president of that organization. And so as progress went on, that's how I got involved with CADE. I helped co-founded CADE, which stands for Creativity, Arts, and Educational Development, right? Got involved with that. So I've been kind of really keeping my hat in the ring with organizationally and personally to make sure that I'm in and around the opportunity to share information. Because I look at myself as this. I don't know, you guys, you ever seen that like old westerns like Wagon Train? And y'all, yeah, I know. I'm thinking y'all out. Back then, he was on one called Rawhide. Right, Rawhide. But let me frame this for you. There were pioneers. They called them pioneers, right? And they had these covered wagons, and they used to go in caravans, going from one part of the country to the other part of the country, right? And this is unexplored territory. Nobody knows what to experience. So what they had was scouts. They call them scouts, and these were guys who have some experience with horsebacking, or some experience with wildlife, and probably lived in the wild or something, and know a lot about how to measure terrain and all that stuff. So they would send these scouts out 5, 6, 10 miles out ahead to come back and report what's the best direction to go, right? And if right. Sometimes they would park because they heard that it's Indians down there, or they heard that it's ravines and it's mountains and stuff like that, or whatever. They heard that, so they need to have that clarified. So they send a scout out 5, 10 miles ahead, right? And they would hope that the scout made it back to give a report. That's what I am. I'm the scout that made it back to give the report that this terrain that we're following, if you go this way, is trouble. If you go this way, we got a better chance. If we go this way, it might be longer, but the weather's good, there's plenty of water, no wildlife that you need to be afraid of, no Indians, Might be longer, but it's better. So I come back with these options. You can go this way. The way I went, I had to fight my way to get back. Right?
You wanted to learn from experience instead of being the person that just gets told, oh, this is not the way to go. You wanted to kind of experience it, and you have experienced it. Now you experienced it, and were able to come back and tell the younger generation, this is not what we should be doing.
That's right. And again, if you want to know, I don't use definitives like should, better, need to, ought to, and I certainly don't use can't. Right? if I say it, I always catch myself. Nope, I can't tell you what you need to do. Let me rephrase that. I recommend, I suggest. This is my suggestion because I don't want to appear like I'm making a decision for you. I always make sure that I frame it so that it's not interpreted as I'm deciding what you should do. But what I am deciding is what I'm going to share with you, that to the best of my ability, from the bottom of my heart and from the best of my experience, what I went through, right? And how I felt when I was going through, and how I felt when I decided to stop doing it. And that's how I got to the point where I recognize that I'm comfortable being a servant now, right? I'm comfortable being of service now. I was self-absorbed and self-centered for so many years of my life that I was missing my call. My call is to be of service, right? And my comfortability is in service. And that's what I like for our young people to start recognizing, is that when you, like, I'm going to tell you, young men, I'm going to say this. I wanted to say it at first, man. But I admire you too, brothers, right? I admire what you do and the way you do it, because you're thriving and you're striving to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to hear something that will stimulate them to go forth and do it in a way that's in their best interest, right? And so that's what I commend you guys for. I mean, I meant to say it at first, but I'm saying it now, that you young brothers, y'all, like I say, I'm 72, so I would dare to say I'm twice your age. I would dare to say that. And being twice your age doesn't mean anything unless I can have reverence coming from you, meaning you don't just respect me because I'm older than you. You respect me because I have insight.
Definitely.
On things that you may be encountering now or may encounter in the future. And that you respect that insight and you ask questions, right? 100%. A lot of our young folks don't ask questions. So I have to get them. That's one of my methodologies. If I can get them to ask me questions, then we're on our way. But as long as I'm standing there giving them information and they're sitting there and they're shaking their head and you say, hey, well, what do you think? I don't know. I didn't ask you what you know. I asked you what you think. I don't know what I think. And I'm thinking, you in trouble if you don't know what you think. So these are the type of things that I use to like stimulate them to really stop and recognize that there's some out of order with this thought process. It's something awry with the way you process information. And until you make another decision, the processing method that you're using now is probably not going to work out so well for you.
Right. That's real wisdom. And you kind of you're clarifying the question that I wanted to ask about the control thing that I mentioned earlier, because I was saying from learning from you, I see that you got control of your narrative, as far as the life that you've had to adjust and adapt from being dealt the hand that you were dealt. And going back to that, that's what I'm saying, like you control your narrative. And I was going to ask how that relates to now, like you being in control of what to say or just how to move forward. What would like the next major community campaign or project or milestone that you're striving to launch now? And by the control thing, meaning like healing is to help to cure, which is help to make better. So you've got the blueprint on knowing ways that we can go about becoming better. So that's what I wanted to ask now, like, okay, what would be the major focus as of right now? Of course, I've heard you say it in the meetings, but for those that don't know, what would be the thing that you're focused on now that you want to launch, or at least to just get more exposure about in real time right now?
In real time, we're and I've been dragging my feet. I would like to think that I could request some assistance from gifted brothers like you to get the project. It's called the Men Accountable Project.
Men Accountable Project.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Men Accountable Project was designed in the mid '80s to introduce what men do just as a vocation or just as a career or just as a job to our young people in the schools. Is to get them to see that even though you might aspire to become an athlete, an entertainer, or someone of high regard, there's some things in the interim you have to do. You have to take care of yourself. You have to get start with some sort of vocation or some sort of training or some sort of job setting that allows you to be able to take care of yourself and to grow into the details of etiquette, of sociability, of persistence, and those things that are necessary for you to practice even when you think you're going to be a athlete, or you're going to be an entertainer, or you're going to be someone that's recognized in high regard. There's still people who are living good lives that are working, doing things that you don't pay attention to. You don't know who does who fixes the telephone when the wires go down. You don't know about that. You don't know who comes to fix it. You don't know about this guy. You might even find that this is something you want to do. You want to be an electrician. You want to be a plumber. You want to be a woodworker. You might find that something. So the Men Accountable Project back then in the 80s was designed to just have the men come in and develop a rapport with the student body and share what they do and share the spirit and the contentment that they have and the sense of accomplishment that they have. But now the Men Accountable Project has graduated to a level of us not just going into the schools, but we're going into these organizations. We're going to corporations. We're going to different levels of the influencers and sharing our perspective about what we want for our building of community, because right now we don't live in a community. At least right here where I live, this is not a community. This is like a neighborhood.
We got neighbors.
Right? We're just neighbors in a hood, right? We're not a community because there's no money circulating anywhere that enriches or enhances the place that we live. People are coming in, making money, and taking it to their communities. Right? And the debris and what they leave behind, they have no conscience about. They don't care if it's debris all out in front of the store. If you keep coming in front of the store, then you keep coming to their store with debris out in front of it, then they don't need to have nobody clean it. Why? So we want to put more emphasis on building a body of men who understand that we demonstrate what we want others to emulate. That's accountability to our responsibility as men. So a lot of times we have guys that are part of our structure, and what they do is they apologize. When they stand in front of youth, a body, they say, look, I'm going to tell you something. I apologize. I hope you accept my apology because I've been errant in my responsibility to groom and teach you. But I'm here now. And I'm hoping that you'll receive what I have to share. I'm hoping that you'll recognize that what I'm coming to you is the spirit of goodness, it's righteousness, it's fairness, it's wholesome, and it's true. I'm bringing you my truth, and I hope that you'll accept it for what it is, even if you might not apply it, but accept it as my truth, that I care about you and what I see might happen to you if we don't start helping you make better decisions. So that's what we're doing now with the Men Accountable Project. We're in the schools. We've gone to the school board, and we found out that our presence was so powerful
right,
that things are starting to happen now, right? But we're not limited it to the school board. We're also going to be going to these corporations. We're also be going to these community centers. We're also going to be going to the county board of supervisors and proposing to them how we can assist them to get a better result in their job, because we're here now.
Yes.
We're here now and we're willing to be accountable, and we want to, in turn, hold you to the same.
Just before I ask my last question, I just wanted to say, I'm one of those people that say, sign me up. Like when you mention stuff like that, if you were to call me and say, LJ, I need you, I'm there. And it's not just because it's an idea, you know, something to just be the first to get in. And how you mentioned, I didn't know that it's been going on since the 80s, but I've heard the Men Accountable Project being talked about. And mind you, I definitely signed up to definitely go to these board meetings. If there's even been some content out, either Marvell called me or made a statement, an announcement, and I wanted to be a part of that just because I seen the power, felt the power, and wanted to add on to it. So I definitely want to thank you and say that I do commend you for even inviting us to the leadership table just to add on, you know. So for those that do want to get in contact with you and learn more or just lean on your leadership, where can we find you? How do we go about getting in contact with Mr. Marvell Wilson Jr.?
Okay, so I've just had my one of my associates tell me that he was setting up a Facebook for Men Accountable, but he said that because he made a mistake in he made his the Men Accountability instead of Men Accountable, so he took it down and put it in my court to say, okay, you open up yours. Right. So that's where I am now. Okay. I'm with some help. Gotcha. I'm gonna.
We got some resources.
Open up Men Accountable to the Facebook media, right? And then I have a personal number that I don't have any qualms about giving out.
Okay.
For any questions about the Men Accountable Project, that number is 916-410-1976.
We can leave that in the description.
And I'm that kind of guy. I would prefer initially that we have a conversation, and then we can do the text, email, or whatever other medium that we want to go from there. But I would like to have a conversation with anybody curious or interested in this project, because that's where I think we bond, right? Having a verbal conversation, and then maybe doing a Zoom thing or something like that. But we're on the turn to make sure that we publicize ourselves. But he put it on me, and I'm a Flintstone, and I'm just glad I got some Jetsons y'all.
Oh yeah, we're gonna build together, man. We're gonna help you. And just to clarify, so on Facebook, because you are Marvell Wilson Jr. and the way to find you though, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but it's MarvellWilson.
Correct.
Just Marvell Wilson on Facebook.
That's right.
Absolutely. Most definitely.
On.
Okay.
Right on.
Yes, sir. So did you have any more other questions before it? So got you. Our last final question, because again, the series is called Rooted In, and you talked about where your soil is, but as far as if you had just like a virtue or a principle or a concept that you could share, what would you be rooted in for Marvell Wilson? Like something that you're rooted in, even if it's just a virtue or a principle or a concept that you live by. Separate from accountability, or even, you know, let's say family is the most important thing. But for somebody that doesn't know you, that maybe watch this, if we could sum up, you know, what is something that Marvell Wilson is rooted in, what would you say?
What I would say, deeply rooted in, and I propose it to our group oftentimes, is what's deeply rooted in me is the apprehension that our unity as a group of people, black and brown, is so threatening to certain groups that it's not predictable how they might react, right?
Right.
And that's a deep-rooted concern. Yet, I would dare to say that with the climate as it is now, it's pretty clear that the level heads must prevail. And
Facts.
those who are mature and conscious have to take the risk. Have to take the risk and stand to what righteousness looks like. Despite apprehensions about reactionary behavior.
Facts.
Despite that, you have to stand and represent righteousness, because we're seeing what lack of righteousness looks like now. And who's more capable of doling it out than those who have been misused and overlooked?
Right. That's heavy. Right. You cannot spell community without unity. Thank you. Right. UNITY. And what you helped to plant the seeds with, and now we've got a circle of people that's actively building. We're striving to build that community that's united righteously through expressing loyalty to families, assemblies, and nations that love the youth. So definitely, I'm for it, and that's why I said I'm grateful to be able to share this moment in time with you, and I'm looking forward to taking this to new heights, because I feel like it's just the beginning, you know. And I like how even when you run the wheel, you say, "Hey, I'm 72," but you don't put an emphasis on there like it's, you know, like it's near the end of anything. You actually show poise and you're stoic in what you're saying and doing, just to let it be known, like, hey, I'm ready to build still, and it's pretty much still just the beginning. You know, so definitely. So for those that have heard that, you got to get a first insight to Marvell Wilson Jr. He's a leader in this community who's working on establishing a nation, you know, a nation that has a foundation that is solid. So so I definitely want to shake your hand and say I definitely do salute you, you know, most definitely. And I'm looking forward to seeing exactly where this goes, you know. So once again, this is the Rooted In podcast, brought to you by the man behind the camera, Fabian. You know, this is In the Clouds Media. Thank you for your time. Until the next episode, peace and blessings. Yes, sir. Woo! That was nice, right? And again, it's always like a repeat thing in the beginning.